So session 2 here in 2A is engaging in civic knowledge with two of my colleagues that I have worked with for many, many years. Maybe I shouldn't say how many, but Maria Gallo and Patience LeBlanc are going to share information with us from the Center for Civic Education. I believe Maria, I know, is staff at the center, and that's how I know her. And I think Patience is a teacher who they are working with. So Patience is nodding yes. So I am going to turn it over to them. Just a reminder for those of you who want to go to Zoom Room B, we put the link in the chat for you to link over to. All sessions are being recorded. So if you want to watch both of them, you'll be able to watch one live and the other recorded. And also just a reminder to those of you who might have joined late is if you want a professional development certificate, you need to make sure you participate at least twice in the chat so we can verify your attendance, and then email us at the conclusion of the conference and we will get certificates out to you. So with that message, I'm going to turn it over to Marie and Patience. Make sure you go ahead and put questions for them in the chat. If we don't see your question, please be sure just to unmute yourself and jump in. I know there are other Center for Civic Education staff on too who can help answer questions, post links, etc. Okay, off to you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I'm glad you didn't tell them for how long we've known each other. As you said, I am Maria Gallo, and I am working at the Center for Civic Education. Hold on one second while I actually do this as a slideshow. And I am the Director of Professional Development and Special Programs at the Center. And Patience is the instructional actually, I should just let Patience introduce herself.
Thanks, Maria. Yes, I'm an instructional coach for English and Social Studies at Frisco High School in Frisco, Texas, which is near Dallas.
Even though we are going to be doing this together, at different times, you'll hear both myself as well as Patience, even though we have specific suggestions or specific places where we're going to talk. This happens to be one of them. So I'm going to turn it back to Patience. And I think you wanted me to stop sharing my screen.
Well, just leave it right there for a second though, Maria. Okay. Yeah, we wanted to go ahead and start with something kind of interactive. Maria and I can't see our participants, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to try a sort of a brainstorming activity. And since our topic is civic education, and as an educator, we are constantly looking for engaging activities to help our students become future ready learners. And civic education, a very hot topic item right now, is something that we really need to start wrapping our heads around and helping our kids not only learn about civic education, but also be engaged in it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to either take your phone and you can use the QR code, or if you've got a computer, just open up a new tab and type in the bit.ly. And what we're asking you to do is to answer this question: how do we make civic education engaging for future ready learners? And we're going to see what this group of people come up with. Okay, Maria, I think we can go ahead and stop sharing now when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab that screen from you. I apologize. There we had it set up. Okay. Okay. And if you've never used Metameter as a teacher, there is a free version. I don't work for those people, but it's metameter.com. And there's a free version. I always use the free version of things because I'm a poor teacher. And it's a great way to get your kids interactive in a thought-provoking question, or maybe you've got to do some brainstorming. And as you can see, Maria, it's creating a word cloud in real time. So as teachers are implementing ideas into their phones or into their computers, we're creating a word cloud. And so what we see, our teachers are brainstorming words that are used more than once get put into the word cloud as bigger. And so I see things like hands-on. That's way to make civic education engaging. I love this word debate. Do you see that debate word, Maria?
Yes.
Having kids debate on current topics, those are great ways to get kids connected. Making connections, real life connections, getting kids really involved in how our government works. All of this is going to help them set them up for future ready learners.
Thanks, Patience. And I'm glad you said that you're nothing but a poor teacher, because the reality is all teachers to a certain extent are poor. And everything that I'm about to show you today and that Patience is going to talk about today is going to be free. So teachers do not have to worry about spending their hard-earned money on this material. Can I go ahead and,
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the platform that was created as a result of our SEED grant, which was by the Department of Education, and it is Learn. And it is, the platform's address is learn.civiced.org. You will see this at various times. You will also see this on our last slide again, so you don't have to be ferocious at writing this down. But it's an opportunity for us to learn, discuss, and to share our information on this platform. Why can't I go forward? I wanted to. This is not the time for this to be happening. Patience, rather than spend time trying to get this done, can you take over for me and I'll talk, but the next slide should say, but for some reason it's, oh, there it goes. There are three things we'd like you to focus on during this presentation. One is teacher engagement. How do we as teachers engage in this, either through professional development or through our own individual self-worth or self-growth? And then how about student engagement? How do we get students to participate in any of this material? And more importantly, how are we integrating technology in our classrooms and by the use of these courses, et cetera? How do we do this? Now, as Patience did show in the original video that you saw, that there are four different segments to the Learn platform. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. The resources allow you to get information on all grade levels, as well as the Civic Forum, which Patience was kind enough to use and was our forum moderator for a while there. We will be looking at various ways in which we're going to continue to do this here at the center, but we would like a dialogue, and feel free to participate in the Civics Forum, as well as the instructor-led courses. This is specifically geared for us at the center and for our state coordinators to do coursework with the teachers, and to be honest, with some of our students as well. And of course, I'm going to spend most of my time today talking about the open courses, which are free courses that are available to teachers. There are 11 courses so far. We anticipate that there will be more. The first course is going to be the We the People open course. And it is basically very important for you to realize that it is a self-paced, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. that it is a self-paced course, but it can be used for professional development. It can be used by yourself. It can be used with your students. It is always similar in its breakup. There are 6 units. It works on the We the People, the Citizen, and the Constitution book, level 3, which is the high school level book. It talks about, we interview scholars for each unit. There are 6 units. And so we're anticipating that you can see that there's a free and that there's an introductory, that it is on the introductory level, so that teachers who really are not sure or who are old hat and just want a refresher course can take this. Or you can see, and I have to stop doing that, that the breakdown is similar for all of the units. It is divided, each unit is divided by lesson plans. There's an introduction. There are review questions, which are for check for understanding, that goes along with the video. And then there are discussion questions. There are not the same number of questions based on what we're talking about, but it is just so that you know that that is the breakup and that is how we work it all. Now,
Maria, can I go ahead and jump in real quick here? I'm
you need me to go back a slide?
Yeah, just go back one more slide. I am wanted to jump in and just kind of mention something as a teacher that has used this program with my students. I've actually gotten the privilege not only use it with like my own staff, teachers that work with me in my department and my fellow teachers, but I've also used it with my students. We use the We the People book, and I know Mark Gage is on here too, and he's been answering some of the questions in the chat, and we appreciate that, Mark. But there were a couple questions, is there a textbook that goes with this? It sure does. We use this textbook. I've used it at the middle school and at the high school. When I use the program with the middle school, even though the online course is high school generated, the videos work fantastic with middle school students. You definitely have to chunk it. And what I love about this program is those reviewing questions. It's set up in true and false questions. And so it's also very interactive for students. We all know, if you're a teacher out there, you taught this year in this COVID world, and we've really become online learners and online teachers. And having this course readily available, it was the fact that I didn't have to invent the wheel. These are quality presenters and quality scholars that my kids, I could assign my kids, and they could listen to it on, at home or in class. Even though I had students face to face, we were still very isolated this year. We know as educators, technology is here to stay, and having as many free, and I love the word free. Everybody's jumping on that word, Maria, in the chat.
Good.
These are free materials. We are poor teachers, and I love the fact that the center has done these programs for free, but they are great videos, sometimes often, especially for the middle school students, a little bit long, but that doesn't mean I can't chunk it and use the reviewing questions to help myself do that. The questions below that are in the discussion, and you can see right here on the page, we have question 1, question 2. Those are like discussion-based questions, and they lend themselves for inquiry-based learning. That is sort of a new movement that's moving around many of the districts here in Texas, is inquiry-based learning, which can turn around to be like PBAs or PBLs, and great opportunities to incorporate that engagement in your class.
Thank you very much, Patience. Actually, that was perfect, because I was going to say that if you do not want to go through the entire book, or if you're not familiar with the scholars, etc., and the various units, you can actually, let's say, look at the very end of this material, at the end of Unit 6, you will see a resource that says index. And that index happens to be live. And you can, I just picked out a J here, mostly because I was looking at the judicial review, which happens to be in Unit 3 and in Unit 6. It happens to have the unit, the lesson, and the section. So Unit 3, Lesson 15, Section 5, or Unit 6, Lesson 36, Section 1, talk specifically about judicial review. And maybe that is something that you want to deal with individually with your students. It's not necessary, I don't think, to go through the entire book with your kids unless you want to. And that is very, very important. There are lessons in here that are useful and that can be pulled out easily based on whatever you're covering. So as much as we would like you to use this material as a whole, we want you to recognize the fact that it's not absolutely necessary. We have 10 courses in Strengthening Democracy in the America series, and we refer to it lovingly as SDA because it's so much easier. You will notice that at the beginning, we are always going to have that little square box that talks about the type of course, the length of the course, the amount of effort, the price, the introduction, the level that it's at, and the language it's in. You can click and enter all of the courses, as well as the ability to actually participate in the course itself, or just the segment of the course that you want. I think it is important to understand that in Strengthening Democracy, we talk about various issues. And we're not suggesting that there's something wrong with the American system or that there is a problem in the American democracy, although obviously there are always going to be problems in democracy as a whole. But I think it is important for us to take a look at and let our teachers and, more importantly, our students make decisions about what they think they can strengthen. Maybe it's a weakness. Maybe they see the balance of power, for example, as one of the issues. That is a weakness in the U.S. government, in the U.S. democracy. Well, how do you change that? Or how do you make it stronger? Or how do you change the weakness? So I think that becomes important. So these 10 courses, again, we interview scholars, we have true and false, check for understanding kinds of questions, and we have discussion questions at the end of each segment. We are putting together a user's manual. Right now, a lot of the issue papers are on the high school or adult written level. So we're going to try to bring those down to middle school level so that if you want to just look at one particular issue after you've done this with your class, after you've seen the titles and perhaps some of the information, you can go through them, as well as how do you use SDA for project-based learning. And we're using a format from our Project Citizen that allows us to look at policies that need to be changed or can be strengthened or et cetera from the perspective of both the state and the federal level, and not the local level necessarily, because a lot of these things are dealing with the federal and state governments. Sorry. Patience, I have a question for you. Can you describe a little bit for us in the time that we have left, how you actually did use this with your students, and then you could go anywhere you would like from here.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. I'm a huge fan of the program. I've been using We the People for about 20 years, the Center for Civic Education website. On the chat, if you've been monitoring the chat, they're talking about our podcast and our 60-second civics. A lot of the programs that the center does, I use within my classroom. I was just typing in the chat, Maria, that our 60 civics I use as bell ringers. My kids really get into the podcast as well, but it really was when the center moved to these online courses that I was able to have these readily made materials available for free for my classroom. So we do use the We the People book, the textbook. And even if I'm not using the People book, there are some years in some courses that I don't use the textbook, but yet I have government units. And so when I get to my government units, that's when I turn to center materials. I will use the videos, I use the inquiry questions, the follow-up questions. What I love about the center's material, it lends itself to some project-based learning. The idea that students research, they read, they form their own opinions, and we do the congressional hearing in our classrooms. I always have my students through the research process and using the material, and then do the congressional hearing. Anytime you can get students to perform or work toward some kind of presentation, they are more invested in the material that they are learning. All of these materials are, we can connect it to real life things that are happening in students' lives. And that's what makes them engaging and interesting for students. But again, it's been so neat to not only be able to use the course with the professor videos and the true and false questions to help guide them through the videos, but then those questions, those discussion questions that we use for inquiry-based learning. But as a teacher, the site, and I don't know if you can flip back to the page, Maria, that shows the forum. You can kind of move it back on up. But when you go to learn.civic.org, this is the page this is the page that you're going to see, learn.civic.org. And Maria showed the slide earlier where it even has the forum page. The forum is a great opportunity for teachers to be able to ask other teachers questions. You know, there it is right here. It's the third one from the left. Joining the Civic Forum allows me to ask other teachers that are going through the same experiences in their classroom questions, or share ideas. There's some great resources on there. There's some great things that people have shared. I incorporated word walls, for example, a couple years back, and I was trying to get some ideas on how to do word walls. And there was a couple teachers that posted pictures of their word walls. It's just a great way to have this open community across the nation, because the problems here in Texas sometimes are the same problems in Georgia or in California or in New Jersey. So it's nice to be able to reach out to other teachers using the forums. And then, of course, if you haven't had a chance to get onto this website and check out the center's resources, we have lots of partners and lots of friends that we connect our resources to as well. And there's some great resources there for you to check out.
Yes, and I want to say that besides everything being free on the Learn platform, which is our civics platform, we have loads of free stuff on our civiced.org, which is the organization's website. There are lots of lesson plans. There are ways to get directly to 60-second civics directly from our website. So I think that these are all options for teachers. Can any of the teachers that participated, and because can I stop sharing my screen for a second?
I think you can.
I did not get a chance to see what was going on in the chat, but I am curious as to if you have questions, or more importantly, can you tell us how you see the use of this in your classroom? And you can put that in the chat if you'd like.
And we had a couple of comments earlier. Maria, you'd have to scroll a little bit back up. We've got some people that they have been We the People fans as well, and they've used We the People and congressional hearing in their classrooms too. That was several comments back forward up.
By the way, whoever likes my minions, thank you.
We have a comment from Fatima. She talks about some of the additional assignments could be maybe used as assessment materials, which I agree. Like I said, the questions that the center comes up with in the discussion question are great for formative assessments to see if really those kids are getting it.
Okay. Patients, do you have any questions that you want to ask them?
Well, I think your question about how they might use this in their classroom is a great one. You know, and then I guess my other question for you is that, you know, we live in a time where civic education is so important. We look at what's happening in the world around us, in our state around us. I have a lot of friends that are just really interested, you know, maybe didn't get the government course they wanted to when they were students themselves. And so I guess my question would be, is that for those of you that have maybe used the center's materials, specifically the course or maybe the 60 seconds, you know, civics, do you think that other adults could use these materials to help educate the public? Would you think that though these materials could be used for your friends or your family, maybe to help that conversation at Thanksgiving? You know, a little bit of education goes a long way. So I just want to throw that out there and see what people's thoughts were about, you know, not just this material for students, but what about this material for the public or friends and family?
Absolutely. I would love to hear if they have friends or they have knowledge. And it's not just that they didn't get the course, but maybe the course was a while ago. And so, you know, it never hurts to have a refresher.
We have a couple yeses to that question, Maria, in the chat.
I saw that. Thank you.
Mary has a suggestion too for you, Maria, and for the center. She says, I'd really like to see more opportunities for engaging students with one another. Maybe some good online activities where they're discussing things together. I know the inquiry questions are in discussion-based format on the Moodle site or on the website. So that is definitely one way that kids can engage with each other. But we can definitely brainstorm some other ideas.
Yes, I mean, other free ideas, because the reality is that there is a way for students to talk to each other and to discuss with each other on our not the Learn platform, I'm sorry, but on our books that are also online. And so, but you would have to pay for that. And so we're looking for free ways in which kids can talk to each other, or suggestions that we can give teachers using either Schoology or Google Forms or Google Docs, etc. Just using Google in general, how they can actually work with each other.
I love Valerie's comment. I'm not a civics teacher, but capital, yes, we could use that with other friends as well.
Annie or Elizabeth or Mark, I think we're 2 minutes out. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Ralph has a question just real quick, Maria. It says, are there cooperative activities?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
All I was going to say is, yes, there are cooperative activities in both We the People and the open course, as well as the SDA course, Strengthening Democracy in America, those 10 courses. It will be a little bit more obvious with the SDA when we wind up with our manual, our teacher's manual, that will be available for free also online. But prior to that, I think that if you just take a look at those, you will see that there are ways in which we can participate together as a group.
Project Citizen is also being thrown around in the chat, Maria, too. Another great cooperative learning project as well. Good
I'm
PBL.
so glad. I'm
And
very glad to see that, especially since SCA's materials on the federal and the state level are going to be based on Project Citizen. So I'm very happy to hear that.
And Mark just put the link to Project Citizen in the chat if you haven't seen it. He
I
just
saw
put
that
it
just
in there. Yeah, and Project Citizen is definitely a PBL. So if you're looking at inquiry-based, if your district is incorporating inquiry-based learning or PBLs, Project Citizen is a great, already set. I love it that I don't have to invent the wheel, Maria.
Yeah, I know, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you. That is like a perfect ending to have excitement about Project Citizen and all other project-based learning and inquiry-based civics education. So thank you very much for such a great presentation. And thanks to all the participants who were so interactive in the chat during the session. That really helps with these online conferences when we have you out there that we can't see participating.